Do you want to know 7 reasons why Andy Ruiz Jr. beats Anthony Joshua again? If so, stay tuned to this video. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also, subscribe to the channel for the latest and greatest in boxing. If you want to become part of the gang, notification gang, please hit the bell icon. Shout out to the super chats, channel donations, the Venmo donations, and the Patreon family. We working. Sign up for ESPN Plus below. Using my link. It's in the description of all my videos. And it does help the channel. Wow, look what we have here. This Saturday, December 7th, Andy Ruiz, unified champion, beat Joshua in June. He's rematching former unified champion, Anthony Joshua. I'm going to give you 7 reasons why I believe, Boxingego, I believe Andy Ruiz takes this fight too. So, you'll occasionally see me looking at my notes. And surprisingly, this wasn't really a hard prediction for me. I thought about the fight when it first. See, this is what happens with boxing sometimes. I don't know how long this video is going to be, but I'm gonna one take it. So, I'm gonna give my thoughts. Just let it flow. Whatever the time is, So you might have to watch it in parts, depending. This might be like The Irishman, 3 hours and plus. Nah, but after the first fight, I feel like I seen what I needed to see. Sometimes, if I see things change or in camp, hear different things. There's been a lot of stuff with this particular fight as well, as far as what happened in sparring. There are rumors before the second fight, these types of things. And, surprisingly, as the fight drew closer, I didn't really feel different. So we're gonna run it. I'm gonna give you my opinion on why I feel Anthony Joshua loses again and Andy Ruiz takes it. Never really changed on this particular fight. I just feel how I feel. Listen, I got to do these disclaimers on it. This is not against any particular fighter. I'm giving you my opinion. If you feel different, you can leave a comment in the comment section. We are going to see. I could be wrong, but I could also be very right. Now, the last disclaimer before I get started, I have to mention this. My only concern, I'm confident in my pick, but boxing is boxing. There's no governing board. The fight's in Saudi Arabia, and I'm not hedging my bet. However, I just hope, and I'm not trying to think cynically, but I hope everything's on the up and up. Because Joshua, when he fought Joseph Parker, I thought the ref interference wouldn't allow them to fight on the inside. And, for this prediction, I'm assuming that everything's on the up and up. No robbery scorecards, nothing that feels, like it was fixed or scripted, just even combat. In Saudi Arabia, everything's on the up and up, So, without further ado, let's get into the 7 reasons, Boxingego style. In at number 1, Ruiz confidence full camp. Now, this is pretty self-explanatory. Andy Ruiz, he just became champion June 1st. He set a goal, and he accomplished that goal by beating Joshua. If anybody should have confidence going into the rematch, it's obviously Andy Ruiz. I mean, the man, this is the week I remember the post was, this is the week after he knocked out Joshua. He's on Jimmy Fallon, who sent like a stretch Humvee for him. He's posing with all the belts, so he got the hardware. Andy Ruiz knows that there's big fights out there beyond this. His family's living good. He's able to help his mom take care of his kids, invest, buy some things. So all in all, good time for Andy Ruiz. So I think Andy Ruiz is going to come into this confident. From what I've seen on Fight Week at the time of recording this video, I haven't seen the weigh-in or anything like that. But what I've seen thus far in interviews, BBC has some interviews, Joshua seems nervous. So he's talking almost, it's like a self-help book. He sounds like he is trying to say things in a positive fashion, laws of attraction style, but he's saying things and it's like he's trying to convince himself. Meanwhile, Andy Ruiz met the president after the first fight. He knocked out the man. He proved to himself that he could absolutely do this. And then he did the damn thing and became a champion. So I think confidence wise, it's obvious to tell who confidence is leaning with. I'm pretty sure Eddie Hearn said this. Now, the second part of that is the full camp. People don't realize that this was the scene for the first fight, but Andy Ruiz only had 5 weeks to prepare. Now, if you know anything about boxing, that's under the amount of time you normally would have. This fight, they had about 12, 13 weeks, somewhere around there, but they knew they were probably going to be fighting. So, technically a little bit longer. And Andy Ruiz did all this with pretty much a half camp. Half the time he probably should have had. And he had a quick turnaround from another fight. He had no idea this was going to come. It just kind of fell into his lap. And the man, he was durable. He showed heart. He was game. He hurt Joshua. All these types of things. Now he's going into the rematch again with confidence, but also with the notion of, hey, I made some money in the last fight. Everybody's respecting me. I put on for my city. In addition to that, I had a full camp. My camp, I got some money to my name now. I can work with the people I need to. I think part of his camp was in Mexico. So he went to Mexico, worked with some people, different altitude. People forget about that. Then he went and finished his camp closer to home in California. And now he's in Saudi Arabia. So confidence, full camp. I think that definitely benefits Andy Ruiz because, just look what I'm saying. Look what he did. I gave Andy Ruiz every single round. That's why I really feel this fight, and I'm not trying to sell Joshua short because I think he wants to do well and things like that. But I feel like this fight might actually be easier than people are thinking. Like people are building up this cataclysmic fight, but Andy Ruiz, he might have an easier time than people think. But in at number 2, volume punching pressure, Joshua needs time to think. Now, this is a big one stylistically, and I'm trying to give you guys different points of views and different angles as to why I feel what I'm saying. And, just not the normal reasons. Some of them are probably from my first 7 reasons because I picked Andy Ruiz the first fight, and pressure was on that list. But the reason I'm picking pressure and volume punching is because Joshua, he needs time to think. That's simply put, he needs time to think. The thing that made Andy Ruiz successful, so if he does it again here, is because Andy Ruiz, after the knockdown, Joshua got overzealous and, tried to knock him out and got caught in the crosshairs, in the crossfire, and then he got hurt. Andy Ruiz never let him breathe after that. Andy Ruiz never let him rest. If you look at the Klitschko fight, same kind of concept. Difference is Klitschko was coming off a long layoff and a loss to Tyson Fury. Then he was supposed to rematch Tyson Fury, but it didn't end up rematching him because Tyson Fury failed a drug test. So as a result, he was on the couch 18 months, basically 2 years, and had no opponent at age 40, 41. And then he came back with no belts because he had just lost to Tyson Fury and then waited around. And we were hearing like Tyson Fury was having problems in camps. And then we later find out it was because he was on drugs. Tyson Fury was on drugs. So Tyson Fury got banned and Joshua was the up and coming face. So, that made the fight. But the mistake Klitschko made was in the fight with Joshua. If you look at it, it's hard for a leopard to change his spots. Same thing that happened in the Klitschko fight really happened in the Ruiz fight. Joshua hurt Klitschko before Klitschko hurt Joshua. Joshua is responsible for the first knockdown, and then Klitschko got back up, showed tremendous heart, and really started winning the round. The only reason it was definitely a Joshua round is because of the knockdown. But Klitschko did well for himself. Then the very next round, Klitschko knocks Joshua down and his legs go in the air. You know, we can see if we can pull it up. His legs fell in the air all crazy. Right? There we go. Right there. And he gets knocked down by Klitschko. So that he made the same mistake back to back. You know, well, not back to back, but in 2 fights. See, this is, see him falling on the ground all crazy. So again, it's hard for a leopard to change his spots. I think Klitschko, being 41 and just his natural innate style, is not to look at the shot Klitschko's hitting him with. But the thing is, Klitschko is not super aggressive. So Klitschko let him off the hook. And if you watch that fight, it took several rounds for Anthony Joshua to repair and recover. Now Joshua has been beaten. So again, confidence comes into play for Andy Ruiz. Andy Ruiz has proven to himself that Joshua is human. It's just like the movie Rocky 4, when Drago, everybody thought, you know, he was like this machine. And when Rocky stayed in there, and then he drew blood, and they were like, he's cut. And then everyone's like looking, and the music starts kicking in and stuff. What do you mean? Drago's cut. Because that was a moment where that aura of invincibility is stripped. And I think that's what happened here with Joshua. The aura of invincibility is gone. Ruiz knows he can hurt him. See, I think Ruiz could have even cleaned up his work had he had a longer camp and been training for Anthony Joshua. Plus, Klitschko, to his credit, his style is not really super aggressive, especially after he'd been knocked out by the Lamont Brewsters and Corey Sanders and things like that. But beyond that, nobody had knocked down or stopped Anthony Joshua. So he got one knockdown, yes, in the Klitschko fight. Klitschko got one knockdown, but he let him off the hook because this kid is big and strapping. So, you know, he didn't want to make a silly mistake. But if you look at Joshua's face right there, look at his face. Joshua struggles with pressure, smart, educated pressure. And that's what Andy Ruiz showed. Look at his face. Look at his face. So Andy Ruiz, the great thing about him is he's highly experienced. So he doesn't give you an opportunity to rest or recover. And Joshua, in my opinion, needs time to think. And if you watch the highlights even, you can see this. This is what gave him the most problems, is the volume punches. Andy Ruiz is constantly throwing stuff and keeping punches out there. Body, head, hooks, you know, true quote unquote Mexican style. A Mexican-American fighter, letting them things go, letting them dogs fly, and not being afraid and trusting in themselves. And if you look, you can tell from pictures, Joshua was shelling up and had no real defense for it. So I think it's going to be hard to correct that in the amount of time he's had, the June to, you know, fight week now. So he had like 4 to 6 months. In the number 3, weight loss. This is an easy one. Anthony Joshua, simply put, he doesn't look as big. I think Anthony Joshua, part of his armor and his aura of invincibility was the fact that he was so big and buff. For whatever reason, his team has decided to cut weight. This is Joshua today. Joshua, to me, does not look inhumanly big like he once did. Like before, he looked like, this looks like personal trainer type of big, like someone that could be at your local gym, you know, that just works out, or in the Mervin's Target ad or something like that. You get what I'm saying? Versus Anthony Joshua, this is, you know, these are current pictures of him for this current fight, you know, still in shape, but very slim and lean down, you know, and that's versus the older Joshua with more bulk. So I get it. Like, these are all fight week stuff. This is the first, you can clearly see his face looks fuller. His biceps look bigger. This is all, look at his biceps right there. Veins coming out, forearms look, you know, exploded and to the max. This is the first Ruiz fight, you know, So this is the first Ruiz fight, and this is the current Joshua. I mean, clearly a noticeable difference. The other thing is, I don't trust Joshua. He's not honest. He's not being honest, because a reporter asked him, they said, "Oh, you look a little bit smaller and slim." And he's like, Do I look smaller? He said, "Oh, I think I look solid." But I mean, you look at the pictures and tell me. Looks pretty obvious to me that he's not as big as he previously was. So to me, I really feel this could come back to haunt Anthony Joshua. Weight is such a particular type of science in terms of balancing your weight, cutting weight, adding weight. You look at Canelo. Canelo just fought Sergey Kovalev. Did not look like the same fighter. You know, he didn't look horrible. He got the knockout, whatever. But overall, for the first 10 rounds, that didn't look like the Canelo that fought against Danny Jacobs in the first 5 rounds. It didn't look like the Rocky Fielding Canelo or the 154 Canelo. He looked slower. Joshua's team has decided to cut all this muscle mass in 4 to 5 months. I think it's possible, very quite possible, that Joshua is overtraining. And this loss and this knockout has haunted him, and he's trying to figure it out. But this, to me, is guesstimation work, because this is him in the first fight, and he looked a lot bigger. In my personal opinion, I think part of Joshua's armor, I think he lacks self-confidence, more than he tries to show. And part of his armor was his size. Who wouldn't feel, if you feel big, you feel like a tank, you feel like a unit, you feel harder to move. I think that was of benefit to Joshua, and also the aura of invincibility. This is him in the first fight. So I understand, you might think you're faster, but my personal opinion, you never manipulate your body in such a drastic fashion in one camp. Weight loss has to come gradual, especially when you're losing muscle. Losing muscle tissue is different than just losing weight. Like if you're fat and blubber, muscle provides energy. And I'm not a scientist or in the medical field, but I do know a little bit. And if you cut too much weight too soon, it could be detrimental to you. If you lose too much weight, your body doesn't know what's going on, and it's used to a certain caloric intake, if you will, and it'll start depleting muscle tissue, muscle fiber, and metabolizing muscle. So you got to be real careful. That's why you see certain guys. I seen one guy weighing in, and I understand he's a heavyweight, so it's different, but he still looks like he lost, and we're going to find out at the weigh-in, but he still lost significant muscle and weight. Like his chest looks flatter, and he just doesn't look as bulky. His arms don't look as primed, and forearms and stuff like that. His neck looks actually skinny. Look at his neck right here. Look at his neck. See his neck right there. And okay, maybe he's tilting his head back slightly, but his neck right now looks totally different. He just look, that's him right now. So he just looks like he's transformed his whole body. And again, it'd be one thing if it's a movie role, like Michael B. Jordan, if he's doing the Creed workout, that's whatever, because you're not getting punched in the face. You have to compete with a guy that knocked you out for potentially 12 championship rounds at this reduced weight. So in my opinion, I think Anthony Joshua, he might have overtrained and, lost a lot of weight thinking that's going to enhance his speed. But in my opinion, and I noticed this for a while, I was making videos about this, Ego Weight Watchers. I don't think you should manipulate your body to try to compete or match with your opponent's strong suits. You got to do you. Andy Ruiz is just faster than you. But with every particular attribute that's available, like speed, you can negate it with timing. I wouldn't recommend like if you're about to fight Amir Khan, you're not trying to get lanky like Amir Khan because he's fat. He's just naturally fat. You just got to deal with that. But as you've seen, Danny Garcia, he's great with his timing, and he got a read on Amir Khan's speed and kept shooting the hooks till one of them landed. You know what I'm saying? But to me, I think Joshua lost weight because he's trying to, if you will, reverse the clock and go back to his former days. And it just doesn't work like that when you've been carrying a lot more weight for the past. And like I researched this before I did this too. When you've been carrying a lot of weight and then all of a sudden you make a quick flip, you're doing this to your weight, manipulating your weight. Once you're off of a loss, you're not in there with the tune-up opponent, right? And you're testing all of this weight stuff out with the person you have to do good against. And me personally, I wouldn't advise that. So here's Anthony Joshua's weights to give you. He looks, to me, smaller than he's looked for several fights. So Anthony Joshua, he was almost 250. He was 247 3/4 in the Ruiz fight. He definitely looks smaller. So what is he? Low twos? You know, is he 230, 220 something? I don't know. We're going to find out the scale. Ruiz was 268. His other fight, 245 1/4. See, 242 versus Joseph Parker. But that was also, maybe he tried to get light for Joseph Parker. I'll look up the Joseph Parker fight because he didn't look as light. He looks lighter. To me, he looks lighter than he did in the build-up for Parker. So I think that loss is haunting him. But so the lowest he's been is Joseph Parker, and subsequently, that was also one of his worst performances recently. Takam, he was at career high at 254. Before he was 250, 249. He did good in the Brazil fight in the low twos, but again, we're dating back to the summer of 2016. So you guys can see my concern here. You haven't weighed and looked good at a low 200s, or well, not 200s, but low 240s since 2016. So I can understand the concept, but it's easier said than done. You know, he weighed 244, even 245 with Dillian White. And in all those fights, I remember him. He looked big. Dillian White, he looked big. I remember the weigh-in because they had this big, electronic looking digital readout. Gary Cornish, he was 250. Then he was 248. So again, he hasn't really, since 2014, he hadn't been in the 230s. So again, this weight is going to be interesting. I think the weight could hurt him. He hasn't been 230s since 2014. 2014 against Dennis, this dude. I seen this fight too, but that's a dude 38-9, not a guy who knocked you out and you just dropped it in 4 months. So he hasn't been in the 230s. So that scale is going to be very telling. Whatever he weighs on that scale is going to be very telling. And it's too late. Like you can't just hurry up and bulk up in one day. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Weight is just it's just something you have to pay attention. But back to what I said about Joseph Parker. So that's the last time he was in the lower 240s, like 240 to 242. And that also was not a good performance in my view. And that was Joseph Parker. So let's look at Anthony Joshua, Joseph Parker, because he looks small, unless my eyes deceive me. He looks smaller than this to me. His face and everything. See, look. Does he look like that to you now? To me, he looked like bigger and like wider. So this is him weighing 242. Like I said, he lost muscle mass. That's different. Look, this is him at 242, but it's like 242 and he looked bulkier. The other thing with weight is the bottom line is this. See, he to me, he don't look this big. He don't look this full. My other thing with the weight with Joshua's team, so I'm not understanding the game plan, and it seems like they're just sampling and playing around with things, is because if you're optimized at whatever weight he weighs now, whatever weight he's looking like. See, this is an old picture, but we'll go to the new picture. Whatever weight he's weighing right here, if this is him optimized, then I still don't understand why he was ever this big then. And this was one of his lower weights. Like I said, if we go back to the fight with Dillian White, the man looked huge. And then the Takam fight, I mean, he looked way bigger. So I'm not understanding that. I'm not understanding. Look at this. This is him versus Dillian White. Look how big he looked. So I don't understand it. If he does better at the reduced weights, then why was he ever this big to begin with? So to me, them manipulating Joshua's weight, that's actually pretty scary. See, look, this is him. Look how big he looked. Look at it. Look at his traps. Look how full his face looks. Look how full his arm. You know, that's why Tyson Fury was like a message to the weightlifter. He was looking huge. He was looking like a bodybuilder. I think Tyson Fury, look at his gut, but he has a six pack. You know, his arms. He just looked swole. You know, so I'm really curious what the reason for is to come in super lean. So to me, I think the loss has kind of haunted him. Let's see if we can pull up. Like, look, these are pictures that have been out. Look, this is him in the first Ruiz, and this is him in the build-up. You don't notice a difference? So I don't feel like you can rival, because Andy Ruiz's speed is not just speed. Look, I made videos about it. Look, he just looked like he's been working nonstop. Look how small he looks comparatively speaking. Anyway, it looks like he lost muscle. And the thing is, I think Andy Ruiz tricked him, because there's a picture surfacing and floating around. Look at this is old Joshua. Look how big he looks. There are pictures surfacing and floating around like Andy Ruiz. I think this is a Photoshop, to be honest, because he has a shirt on. You can't really tell. He looked a lot lighter. So I think Andy Ruiz hit him with the 52 fake out, and he thought Andy Ruiz was like reducing weight and getting smaller. But in all actuality, Andy Ruiz didn't really do much to his weight, because you look at him fight week, it looks like he lost some weight, but it don't look like a trend. Look at this. It don't look like the same type of trend. And this was like when the fight first started, he actually looks less thick than less massy than this. So kind of a weird decision. And weight, he might not be able to take them punches at this new weight. Look, this is a picture from Saudi. He looks noticeably smaller. You see that? So I hope they know what they're doing. I really hope. His head, see, now it looks like his head is too big for his body. It almost looks like if you were next to him, he would look probably bigger. But like even in pictures, his head looks like a adult head almost on a kid's body. It like doesn't really match to me. So I think he might have went too far for the weight cut. This is him in the first Ruiz fight. He looks clearly bigger here. His face looks fuller. So the concept sounds nice of, hey, let me just cut some weight and I'll be speedier. But you can't really rival Andy Ruiz's speed. Andy Ruiz is just fast. And the other thing that makes him fast is he lets his hands go and he's comfortable there. But you look at Andy Ruiz.
I got hungry and kapow.
Oh, he must have, the story ended. You look at Ruiz, he still looks bigger, you know. He still looks bigger. So I think they've given Andy Ruiz a much bigger weight advantage. So you're going to have to fight a much bigger person, and you still may not be faster than him. And, you know, isn't that crazy? You're giving him a better weight advantage, and he's athletic. And the other thing, the last thing, I know I've spent a lot of time on this, but this is one of the big ones, guys. One of the big things about it. One of the big things about it is this. Look, this is show you Andy Ruiz's speed. Ooh. So he's just quick. And everyone was raving about Andy Ruiz's speed on the mitts. And he's athletic. Look at this. This is not even the training camp for now, but look at him. You know, so he just has coordination and stuff like that. But the last thing I'll say about the weight before I move on to the next one is the thing with the weight too is your punch retention might be down, and that's going to be telling because the first heavy shot, this is a heavyweight division. So we know Joshua didn't really absorb the punches well in the first fight and got rattled. So the first shot you get hit hard, you're at a deficit because of what happened in the first fight. But not only that, there's probably going to be a greater differential from his weight in this fight because he didn't really change that much, just got in better shape, and he's going to land at wherever he lands at. And then you came all the way crashing down in weight because I think he might have overtrained. So I think that weight loss is something. But the other thing, when you start to when your muscles start to metabolize and you start to cut into that muscle tissue, it can create lethargy. You can become lethargic and lazy and fatigued. So Joshua already has stamina issues. That's why weight is dangerous to manipulate and play with, unless you're doing it maybe gradually or doing it with a tune-up style fight, which he elected not to do. You get what I'm saying? So this could hurt him more because he's been competing, as I showed you, at decent weights like 243 to 250 for the last several years. And then now for the first fight, trying to figure out how to beat this guy, you've come down likely more weight than you have been in several fights. So you could actually get tired quicker. That's why I don't understand the decision, me personally. In at number 4, PTSD. That's what I call it. PTSD, you guys know what that means, post-traumatic stress disorder. I think if Joshua can't allow Ruiz to draw first blood, if Andy Ruiz draws first blood, what I mean is crack him hard first, then I think it's going to create PTSD and all those memories of the first fight in June and everything and the crowd. I mean, you can hear some stuff like the crowd gasping and things like that. I think that's going to be a bad look because I think it's going to, create panic and a sense of like heightened awareness. But Joshua, to me, is not the fastest with ring IQ, the fastest thinker, and he doesn't know what to do in those situations. You have to really, really know what to do in those situations, i.e. Floyd Mayweather. But this is a guy who got robbed in the Olympics, You have to be like Floyd Mayweather with Shane Mosley, DeMarcus Corley. Anytime Floyd Mayweather been hurt, he knew exactly what to do, period. Pacquiao hurt him. He walked himself calmly to the ropes, shelled up, let Pacquiao unload. And, he seen nothing was happening. Nothing was working. And, as a result, he let off. And then Floyd, got back to recovered, got back to his game plan. I actually have more than 7 reasons. So it's kind of hard because I'm trying to, I try to consolidate it to the best 7, but I actually have more reasons why I think Andy Ruiz wins. So I just think the PTSD is going to be, if Joshua gets hit hard, he's not going to know what to do. He's going to immediately resort to what he knows. And I think that's what all fighters do. It don't matter what you just learned or what you improved or your sparring. I'm not saying your sparring doesn't matter, but what I'm saying is if you have more experience in life not knowing what to do, then it's not going to overshadow 4 months of practicing one specific thing. For example, it's just like some of the best detectives and cops are probably people who've been on the field because they've seen it all. They've had guns pulled on them. They've chased suspects and they have experience. So that's kind of what it boils down to. And I think Joshua lacks confidence because he's not all the way the fastest learner. And he knows that he has an experience curve. He knows Andy Ruiz knows what to do. So when he panics a little bit, that's why I believe the panic attack, the anxiety attack. I think when he knows Andy Ruiz knows what to do and he don't. So it's going to evoke frenzy. So I see PTSD if he gets hurt first. Like, what is he going to do? Andy Ruiz already showed that he could take Joshua's power, but Andy Ruiz is in a full camp mode. And Joshua, on the other hand, hasn't proven to himself or the world that he can take Andy Ruiz's best shot, especially when they're coming a mile, coming a million miles a minute. So I think at the end of the day, Joshua's going to revert back to what he knows in the heat of the moment when you have no time to think. You have no time to think. Andy Ruiz don't, like I said earlier, he don't give you time to breathe. So you're going to revert back probably not to the last 4 months that you've given yourself of training with Brian Jennings and to BT and stuff like that. You're going to revert to your overall longer experiences of which is not knowing what to do in those circumstances. Because if he knew what to do in the first circumstance, then there would be no reason for him to look like that in the first fight. In at number 5, problems with shorties. This one's not going to be too long. But the 5th reason is I think he has problems with short fighters. If you look at all the short fighters that he fought, from Joseph Parker, and I do, as I mentioned earlier, I think Joseph Parker, the referee, his presence was definitely felt in that fight. But Joseph Parker was doing some sneaky work, good work. I believe he even hurt Joshua. It wasn't nothing too extreme, but he hurt him. And Joshua didn't seem to have all the answers. And that definitely wasn't the fight where he looked the best. I think the movement of Parker and the fact that he's a little bit shorter and he was crafty gave him issues. See, this is Joshua versus a 6'7" Brazil. You know, he knocked out him. He knocked out the 6'6" Klitschko. Bigger targets. You know, Gary Cornish like 6'4", 6'5", the bigger targets. But somebody who a little bit smaller like Parker gave him issues. Same thing with the Povetkin fight. When he fought Alexander Povetkin, he definitely wasn't that big. He next to him, and he had Joshua's nose bleeding, and I had him winning a lot of rounds in the beginning. Like Joshua wasn't again in that fight looking too hot. See, then I don't see any pictures, but you know, I can show you. Hold on. I even did a post-fight video on that. This is my video. See? We don't really need this sound, but see, look, Joshua, you see him getting hit? See, I knew I had some screen caps. See how small he looks next to him? He has problems with short fighters, I'm telling y'all. And look at him. Look at him. Look at that uppercut. He getting hit with stuff. Look, he getting hit. I told you. Short fighters. Joseph Parker, Carlos Takam, he didn't look the best. Povetkin was hitting him flush. Look at his face. I told you. And this goes back to one of the earlier points. Points number 2, volume punching. And Povetkin ain't a volume puncher like that. Look at his face. I told you. See? So when Joshua's under siege like that, he needs time to think. But the thing is, Povetkin's not like Ruiz just, you know, and letting the hands go fast and stuff like that. So Joshua was able to work himself in the fight. Big guy. And then he ended up catching Povetkin, and he stumbled and looked, you know, very wobbled. And then Joshua kind of went in for the kill. But now Ruiz, last time he tried to go on the kill, that's when Ruiz came alive in that 3rd round. See his nose bleeding? See, I study boxing. Now he knows that Ruiz can hurt. Look at he was getting hit flush. I knew I had green caps. And man, I got more than 7 reasons. Joshua don't know how to clinch too. It's hard to change leopard spots in 4 months. He doesn't have a good clinch game, and punching downward or something creates issues. And Povetkin's not even a volume guy, and he was 40 years old, things like that. So Joshua, he was able to get this one out. See, he hurt Povetkin, but he would still have an issue with Povetkin. So if you look at Joshua's fights, he had Povetkin issues. Carlos Takam, he didn't look the best. Joseph Parker didn't look the best. Just the shorter guy, obviously Andy Ruiz, things like that. So in my opinion, that's one of the reasons. In at number 6, this is a big one. Joshua, no rest after his concussion / overtraining. I already talked about the overtraining a little bit. The bottom line is, I personally followed Joshua on social media, and after he lost to Ruiz, he was with Prince Charles, or Prince Harry, 2 days later, or a week later, at the gym. See, look, I told you. Look at the dates of these pictures. He did like some kind of charity, and see how he looked a lot bigger, wider neck. He lost a lot of weight. But right around this time, I seen him doing a workout with the towel, and I'm like, man, they said he had a concussion. He was like back working out. And I was like, man, he's not giving himself any time to rest. So to me, I think that's horrible. When you have a concussion, that's a serious issue, And just to show you guys, Anthony Joshua wanted to fight through the concussion. Look, Anthony Joshua's trainer, Rob McCracken, backed over concussion comments. Rob McCracken says he knew Joshua was concussed in the Ruiz fight. So anyway, they're claiming he had a concussion, which, we haven't been able to prove it, but it's definitely possible if you get hit hard in boxing. And they said he had a concussion. You're supposed to, I'm not a doctor again, but you're supposed to rest. Look, I even made a video about it, see? Told you.
The latest and greatest in boxing. If you want to become part of the gang, notification gang. Let's talk about it. TalkSport has an article about it. Link is in the description. The Venmo donations and the Patreon family, we working. Also sign up for ESPN Plus. Link is in the description.
Smash the like button.
Wow. Let's talk about it. TalkSport has whatnot. So it says under fire, and then I'll give kind of my opinion. Anthony Joshua trainer Rob McCracken slammed after admitting he knew his fighter was concussed during the Andy Ruiz loss.
So when you look at a concussion, that's not a good thing for obviously anyone. You're supposed to rest for like probably 45 days, 90 days to, know. There should be a protocol. Concussion protocol. Let's see, how long to rest? Again, I'm not a doctor, but in most cases, concussion recovery takes about 7 to 10 days. However, if you don't get enough rest following your doctor, and see, this is different because it depends on what, like in boxing, I'll show you an example. Luis Ortiz got knocked out, right? And he's suspended. That's what happens in UFC and boxing. You're supposed to rest for a period of time. And I've known fighters to, like, for example, Dominic Brazil. He got knocked out by Deontay Wilder bad in May. We have not seen him come back to the ring. Anthony Joshua got knocked out and knocked down and embarrassed. And instead of giving himself time to process everything and fully grasp and fully, like, maybe improve or learn, and most importantly, just rest thereafter, he jumped right in camp. I don't think that's smart. So look at Luis Ortiz. See, told you. I just looked at a recent fight. Luis Ortiz suspended by Nevada Athletic until January. See, he got knocked out in Vegas by Deontay Wilder in a fight he was winning with a single shot. Anthony Joshua got hit all over the head and body and punched in the jaw and top of the head, side of the head, hook, temple, in the body, in the arm, everywhere. And I literally seen him training immediately after, within a week. Meanwhile, Luis Ortiz can't compete per the rules of the Nevada State Athletic Commission till January because they don't want you really doing anything. And post-fight, I seen Luis Ortiz with his family. They were just chilling out. I don't think he's worried about training. That's what I'm saying. So I think Joshua's just overtraining, overanalyzing, and this is haunting him because he lost, and no one likes to lose. And especially if a man had a concussion, you just got to process all that. It's just like going through, let's say you were in a marriage and you broke up with your wife and separating, you're getting a divorce, but you were married for 14 years, you probably shouldn't date right away. You know, I mean, I'm no love doctor or nothing, but you probably shouldn't date immediately after. Give yourself time to heal, process it, because you could go through a breakup, and even if you initiate it, you're like, oh, I feel good, man, I'm ready to hit the club. But that's a temporary fix. That's why people get into rebound relationships and then they realize, man, this person ain't for me, because you rushed it. So Joshua, the gym, to me, like he said at the press conference, which he didn't sound that confident, but he admit at the final press conference in Saudi that he jumped right back in the mix and the swing of things and started training. I just think that's a bit much for a person who had been beaten like that. So I think there should have been a protocol. His team should have been like, no, we're locking the doors to the gym, changing the locks. We don't want you in here training. Spend time with your family, chill out. But, you know, Eddie Hearn put an announcement out. Literally, the fight happened on June 1st. I'm going to show you how this all worked. See, I have a great memory. The fight happened on June 1st, and he posts a lot, so it's going to take me a second. But make sure you guys smash the like button. 7 reasons. The fight happened June 1st, and I'll show you exactly when, because I remember what the post looked like, exactly when the rematch clause was triggered. Like, they didn't wait. They didn't hesitate. They didn't waste any time. He got beat, and it was like, nah. They were like, F that. We're doing an immediate rematch. Nah. Watch. Oh, I might have passed it. Hold on. Let me find it. Hold on. I can find it quick. Okay. Oh, maybe I didn't pass it. Damn, he posted a lot. Give me a second. It's going to take a second. Okay, 1 day to go, so it should be right here. Okay, so Joshua lost, right? June 1st. Another reason it's not good here, look. So June 4th, 3 days later, this is Eddie Hearn. After meetings with AJ, Rob McCracken, and the management team in New York, we have today triggered the contracted rematch clause with Andy Ruiz Jr. The fight will take place November or December at a venue to be confirmed shortly. Literally, this was 3 days. I told you it was quick. I told you my memory works. 3 days. 3 days after he got knocked out, he made a rush decision. That's not right to me. I think you have to give yourself time to process that. It's like a rebound relationship. You spend time with your family, chill out. And so just so you know, Joshua, he knew within 3 days that he was fighting Andy Ruiz again. So he probably overtrained because he lost. Andy Ruiz is eating pizza and at Universal Studios with his family, eating tamales and tacos and steaks and chilling out because he won. He's celebrating. He with the Mexican president of Mexico. And Joshua's brain from that date, because he knew it was on, his brain's probably turning in the hamster wheel, just spinning and spinning all the way to now. That could account why he looks so skinny. You get what I'm saying? So, bad decision. There's only so much, in my opinion, that you can learn in 4 months, especially in that type of loss. So that's probably why Joshua looks so skinny. That's why he looks so non-confident to me. And yeah, I think he's overtraining. So no rest. He jumped right back in the mix. I don't think that was the ticket. And I think he's probably overtrained. The final reason, Boxingego 7 reasons. Okay, so I kind of started talking about you revert back to what you know, and that it kind of wraps everything up. At the end of the day, you revert to what you know. If you get hit hard, and you're gonna think about your life experiences more than the last 3-4 months, especially when you get embarrassed or if you get dropped. It's clutch. You have to. So if you know how the saying goes. If you know, you know. So Joshua can't get hit with nothing hard. Because I feel like the moment he gets hit with something like that, then it's over. Like I said earlier, PTSD, and he's going to revert to the fighter he always is. Again, we've seen him get overconfident and like try to bully somebody and then get caught. Happened with Klitschko. He drew first blood with Klitschko, and then what happened? He got hurt the very next round and lost the rest of the round, even though he won the round because it was 10-8, but he started losing the remaining seconds of the round he dropped Klitschko. And then he got dropped in the next round. Then his best moment in the whole fight is round 3, and it was one of the rounds where he had 2 losses. So overall, I think Joshua's in over his head. He didn't give himself time to heal. I don't think he's confident. And, that's just what it is. So I can see, to wrap this up, 7 reasons. Andy Ruiz beating Joshua. If everything's on the up and up, no, fixed fight, nothing that looks fishy. If it's a fair fight, I see Andy Ruiz winning. And, I can see him doing it a little bit sooner than he did in the first fight. I really don't know what Joshua's X factor is here. He can try to box, but again, with the weight loss and the confidence issues and those types of things, how long is he going to try to box? And again, like I said, reason number 7, if he gets clocked, you're going to just stay in boxer mode. He doesn't know what to do. He doesn't clinch right. His legs might be heavy or stiff or noodle leg. I mean, these types of things. So ultimately, I think styles make fights, and this was a bad style. And Joshua, maybe he was complacent. Maybe he thought he was on top of the world. And he ran into this guy late notice, and then this guy came and beat you. And then I just see it being a two-peat for Andy Ruiz. That's what I really think. And then the other thing is, I got 2 things to leave you guys with. 7 reasons. If you really think about it, name another fight that you can think of where a person lost every single round, and then did an immediate rematch with the same team, no new trainer, nothing. Fought the same person in an immediate rematch, and then they came back and won the fight. I'm going to say it again. Name a boxing match, not UFC, because, there's different. I'm not worried about MMA. There's different ways to win, like Conor McGregor got submitted and then he can win on the cards or something. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about in boxing. Name a fight where you can think of, especially a heavyweight, if you have an example of that, where a person lost basically every moment of a round and then just reversed it like that. It's a heavyweight division. One punch can change everything. But to me, Joshua has power. He's strong. I don't know how strong he's going to feel at the reduced weight. And at his bigger, bulkier weights, I don't really remember Joshua being a one punch guy. So I feel like, is he going to, at the smaller weight, leaner, is he going to be a one punch knockout artist? Like Wilder can destroy you. He showed you that time and time again. He's flattening and crumbling guys with one shot. Dominic Brazil, he fought Dominic Brazil in that fight. Let me see exactly, just to be sure. I think it went like 9 rounds, something like that. Dominic Brazil 7, okay. But I remember Wilder got him out sooner. So it went 7 rounds. And his eye, I remember that whole fight. Joshua fight. His eye was looking bad and he was still in there. And this was like prime confidence Joshua. Look at the man's eye. This is what his eye was looking like after Joshua. But he took 6-7 rounds of that and was still standing. So Andy Ruiz showed to be durable. I'm going to watch this fight again. I haven't seen it in a while, but it took a while. It took a while and look how big Joshua looked then, and I think that's, like I said earlier, that's part of his strength. So he was that big and they were closer in weight and stuff like that. And he had to chop him down. So how's he going to, to me, he's a big puncher, but he's more of an accumulation puncher, unlike Wilder, who could just bah, and then flatten you. So at the smaller weight, do you think he's like, look at this, Wilder hitting him. Look, Wilder hitting him, he's almost out of there. Wilder was hurting him with every single shot that he landed like that. So I think Wilder's more of a Brazil knockout. Wilder, watch. Look, this man did this in one round. Look at Deontay Wilder. Oh my God. Bro, look, in one round, he did that to him. So I think Joshua, even, he lost the weight. I think he overtrained. He don't know how the weight's going to suit him. Ruiz is durable. Joshua, even at no matter what weight, he hasn't really knocked out prime guys with one punch. Like even Povetkin, he knocked him out and he staggered all crazy and he finished him off. Klitschko, he dropped him and then Klitschko recovered. I think Andy Ruiz is like Mexican Wolverine. Hey, bub, berserker barrage. So even if he did hurt Ruiz again in this fight, Ruiz showed great recuperative skill and power and a level of awareness. He wasn't so cloudy. Plus, he's going to have a weight advantage, most likely based on what he looks like on fight week. And Joshua looking a little bit more sucked up and dropping weight. So I didn't really understand that game plan. The last thing I'll say, 7 reasons, is history. And I like to leave you guys with a little piece of history. History is not on the side of Joshua. Here's why. In the heavyweight division, there's only been 3 heavyweights that lost the title and then came back in an immediate rematch scenario and defeated the person. And they're legendary. Floyd Patterson, Muhammad Ali, and Lennox Lewis. That's history for you guys. So Muhammad Ali, the difference is, like I said earlier, name a fight where someone lost every round and then they came back and won it in an immediate rematch scenario. And I don't like the confidence of Joshua because Joshua's team keeps saying, oh, he's still learning. And if we win and if we can do this and he should win and 7 out of 10, it just don't sound confident. But Muhammad Ali did it, and look at it. Ken Norton, 1973, he lost a split decision, did an immediate rematch in March 73, came back in September, immediate rematch with hooks harder than Ken Norton, right? Ken Norton, and he won the split decision, so it was still a tough fight. So he lost close, and then he won close. And then he did it again with Leon Spinks. Again, he lost a split decision, came back the next fight and won a unanimous decision. So in 1978, Leon Spinks in February, and then he came back in September. So those are the 3 people: Floyd Patterson, Muhammad Ali, and Lennox Lewis. And then for Lennox was already an established champion, unlike Joshua, who had a lot of experience, was coming off the David Tua fight when he did it immediately, because the Oliver McCall was not a immediate rematch. Oliver McCall, he lost to him, and then he had some other fights, and then he came back and rematched Oliver McCall, and he had this whole episode and meltdown and start crying in the ring. So his immediate rematch was Hasim Rahman, and that was an immediate rematch. And the difference between that is he wasn't losing every second of the round. He was an established champion coming off a David Tua. Let me just show you. Coming off the David Tua win. So you got to know your boxing. So he had beat David Tua, a massive puncher. Then he lost KO, 1 shot. That happened. Stuff happens in the heavyweight division. 1 point bow, and then he was out. Couldn't beat the count. So he came back and knocked out Hasim Rahman in 4. But for those first 5 rounds, he wasn't looking horrible. That's why it was kind of like a super upset, because he didn't look bad. It looked like typical Lennox. And then he gets crushed in the 5th round and can't beat the count. Joshua was beat from pillar to post round 1 to round 7 when it ended, dropped 4 times, and lost all this to a guy that didn't even have a full camp. Meanwhile, Lennox Lewis comes off the David Tua and got caught. He'd already beat Francois Botha, Michael Grant, 2 Evander Holyfield fights, which he should have won both of those. This draw was BS. He had already beaten Shannon the Cannon Briggs. Let's go, champ. Andrew Galata, Henry Akinwade, or whatever his name. I forgot how you say his name. Merciless Ray Mercer, Tommy Morrison. See, Oliver McCall, but he had Frank Bruno, Tony Tucker fights, Razor Ruddock. Where was the other McCall? Hold on. Oh, there it is. So yeah, he had Ray Mercer, Tommy Morrison. See, there was some space between the fight. So he got his confidence up beating these guys, including Ray Mercer and Tommy Morrison, then rematch McCall. So uphill battle for Anthony Joshua. And, you know, I'll give him his credit if he defeats it, but he has a lot of demons and a lot of obstacles to overcome. Again, if you guys know a fight in the heavyweight division, particularly where someone lost every single round, you know, maybe got knocked down a couple times and then got stopped and then came back in an immediate rematch 4 or 5 months later and beat him, please drop that in the comment, because I'm drawing a blank. I think Ruiz might just have his number. I think the bottom line, this should be a lesson to just the fast track and the games kind of Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua played, and then they overplayed their hand and they stepped in and gave an opportunity to somebody because of another person's mistake. And the timing is everything in boxing. Joshua was at a point where he had beaten Klitschko, unified, probably feeling himself. I don't know if he was slacking in Miami in the training camp, and it just everything happened how it was supposed to happen. Now Anthony Joshua has to take something. This man is wearing the New York Knicks jersey that he had from the first fight to taunt him at the press conference. This is a lot of pressure on Joshua. A lot. Matchroom needs him to win. Eddie, DAZN. If this is no fixed fight, I got to pick Andy Ruiz. No love lost to either fighter. That's my honest opinion. May the best man win. We will find out December 7th. That is the Boxingego 7 Reasons. And that's it. Let me know how I did. Let me know what you agree with, disagree with in the comment section. If you love what I'm doing, smash the like button as always. Hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video is Ego signing off. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxingego, the future of boxing.